This is an introduction to the Artisan Electronic Instruments Baroque Synthesizer under development. I'm going to walk through the features that are done and give you an outline of what this is. What we're looking at here is an analog, all analog signal path with dual oscillator, 4-pole low pass filter, VCA. So the signal path audio is all analog. The envelope generators, modulator, and noise and patching system, MIDI system, obviously all digital. Every knob and switch on here is actually digitally measured first so that it can be patch saved. So everything on this panel is patchable and recordable. You have 3 envelope generators, 4 LFOs with 7 waveforms. They each have various gating types to them that can be selected. There are 9 different modulation paths and 18 different modulators that can go into those 9 paths. So there's a lot of modulation capability. Let's start out with some basic stuff. We'll start out with 1 oscillator on, oscillator 2. Let's turn down the volume a little. Completely adjustable through triangle wave. It then goes on to square wave, which is then PWM adjustable. The neat thing about that is you can assign a modulator to shape. You can also do it on PWM. The other neat thing is you can set that to the LFO to once. So it's like getting a little filter. Let's change it to a ramp wave. Pretty cool. And you can change, of course, the rate of that. Can be re-triggerable. Let's leave it on that. They also have a random waveform. I won't show that on shape. So you can do shape modulation from sine to triangle. You can do shape modulation and impulse width modulation. Let's go back to a sawtooth. Let's take off that. Basic sawtooth again. Standard LFO. You can change the modulation for pitch modulation and shape modulation any place you want. Select any of the envelopes, select the modulators, the LFOs. You can actually combine them together, add them, multiply them, take the limit, the min, the max. You can bit crush as well and select all those as modulations as well. This is on LFO 1. Show you the different waveforms. Let me slow it down. Down, up, square, triangle, sine, random, and there's also a random slope. So instead of just giving you a random number, it gives you a random voltage, it gives you a random slope, which is kind of a nice little thing. Okay, let's turn that off. That's 1 oscillator, except I didn't show you, each oscillator has a sub on it. Let's go to square wave. Let's look at squares on squares. You can see this sub, let me turn off. This first sub is an octave down and it is smoothed through a filter. The second is straight square and it's a volume adjustable. You also have 2 octaves down, and again, it is also smoothed, and you can do 2 octaves down, square, and you can adjust the volume of each of those. So you can get a lot of sound coming out. Chromatic pitch adjustment here, fine detuning there, glide here, pitch bend over here. So that does that. Let's turn on the second oscillator. Let's turn off that sub oscillator. So now we have 2 oscillators. They were actually in sync there, but it is analog, so you do get a little drift. Put them together. Put in sub-os, you have a sub-os here too. And put in a sub-os of this guy. Let's put them down 2 octaves. You get a pretty complicated waveform at that point. Still doing this filter wide open. This has been filter wide open. Any effects that you heard have just been through modulation of the oscillator. Let's turn off the sub oscillators, and I'll show you why in a second. Hard sync. Going through, you're actually getting some strange effects because of the hard sync. So the LFO on oscillators 2 is actually causing some shape modulation now, not so much pitch modulation because of the hard sync. See, there's the normal velocity vibrato from that LFO. Put it into hard sync, and that becomes a shape modulator. Harmonic modification even before you go to the filter through the way you modulate, whether you have hard sync on the sub oscillators and all that kind of stuff. Let's turn the sync back off. Let's go back to a single waveform here. Basic. Let's put in the filter now. Let's walk over to the filter. So it'll go from 0 hertz up to 19 kilohertz. That's 0 resonance. Bring in the resonance. Bring it up some more. I don't have it adjusted to go exactly all the way to self-oscillation at this point. That's just a small change in the circuit I need to do. Let's put some modulation in here. Pretty classic. You can, the neat thing is that all modulation amplitudes can be adjusted for both positive and negative effects. And negative. I think this is envelope generator 2. And while we're here talking about envelope generators, these envelope generators have delay and hold and as well as attack, decay, sustain, release, and time modifications. So you can actually use a modulator to change the overall time. Neat thing with that would be, say, like velocity, sensitivity into time. So the harder you play, the faster an attack would occur, maybe. You can also delay that. You might want to layer 2 envelope generators on top of each other, one for the initial, one for a secondary attack. And so you can do the delay. You can also hold. Let's put some. You can hear the diff. So that's kind of a neat little feature. You can do that, and all 3 envelope generators have that feature. You can bring in, and I think there's an LFO in here. Hopefully that's a little introduction. Only thing I haven't really shown you is the digital noise source. Digital noise source has some features in it as well. You can actually modulate. I don't know, let me just show you before I go. Let's turn all the oscillators off here. And let's turn on a little noise. Oh, I'm sweeping here. Let's turn that off. Okay, so just pure, straight up noise. You can change the pitch of the noise. And you can change the volume. The neat thing about also in the pitch is you can pitch modulate. Let's see if I can get that in. There we go. So the neat thing about that is, let's turn that LFO to one. We'll do it a one shot. So we can do like a colored sound entry. You can also do that to the volume. Let's see if I get that in. So now you have the volume changing. Allophone. Anyway, so you can do some interesting things with that. If you, say, connect it to an envelope, you control the volume or the pitch. You could do like a little snap at the beginning of an organ sound, or like at the beginning of a flute sound, something along those lines. So there you have it. That's where we are right now. I'm working on getting patch storage built in so that these buttons will actually store 4 performance patches that you want to bring to the top. You could store more than that inside, about 100 units inside. This will also have a small menu for doing some of the more complex things, setting up MIDI and things like that. But you can see you don't need the menu for much. I have no menuing right now. You will need the menus to do some of the most complex modifications when you add and multiply things together. But other than that, everything is pretty much available at your fingertips. That's the Baroque Synthesizer. Should be completed in the next couple of months, this guy, and then I have to decide what I'm going to do as the next project. I'm thinking of making a version of this without a keyboard, and maybe some smaller versions, and this thing can be converted to polyphonic, so I will be miniaturizing the boards inside and converting it to polyphonic after that. All right. Thanks for listening.